Hey everyone, welcome to Token Topics. XDC is a topic. We're going to dive into some latest news and developments, also an exciting conversation between Quincy Jones, Andrea Frozanini, Lance Lilly, and Kathy Slider on AI and blockchain, so you're not going to want to miss that. If you're an XDC fan, please do consider hitting the like, share, and subscribe so you can stay up to date. And remember, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm also not paid for or sponsored by XDC or the XDC Network. With that out of the way, let's go ahead and dive in. Alright, DCENT family, I have a special announcement. We are pleased to announce the partnership with Hava, an interchain platform for NFT and utility tokens. What is Hava, you might ask? Hava is an interchain platform that allows users to freely move and use NFTs across multiple chains. Expanding their utility and value, it aims to solve the problem of fragmentation in an NFT space by providing a seamless cross-chain NFT experience for creators and collectors. Hava also offers various tools and features for NFT creators, such as the ability to create and manage their own storefronts and galleries, and the ability to issue and manage their own tokens. Pretty cool. Through this partnership, DCENT will support Hava's mainnet coin and HSP20 token on its hardware wallet, and will work towards integrating DCENT Biometric wallet with Hava's extension wallet for PC environment. We hope to provide a secure and seamless experience for users to manage their NFTs and tokens with our various wallet solutions that meet the needs of NFT creators, holders, and users. Now here is Hava's website. I'll put the link down below so you can check it out. We look forward to expanding the Web3 and NFT ecosystem through our collaboration with Hava by working together to create a more open and connected Web3 world. Alright, we have an exciting event coming up. This is posted by Nader Suresh, who's a digital marketing specialist at XDC. So he posts XDC Network will be at Consensus 2023. Very exciting. Attending Web3 events can be an excellent way to learn, network, and advance your career in the industry. Whether you're a seasoned professional or just getting started, there's something for everyone at these events. And what is Consensus 2023, you might ask? So Consensus is an annual event hosted by CoinDesk, one of the leading media companies in the blockchain space. So this, I won't stop right there. That is an excellent way to get this, the XDC name out there. So continuing here, the event will bring together thousands of attendees from around the world, including industry experts, entrepreneurs, investors, regulators, and developers to discuss the latest trends, developments, and challenges facing the blockchain and Web3 industry. Excellent way to put XDC's name out. So whether you're just wanting to learn about this news because it's exciting for the XDC network, or if you're thinking about attending, this is an opportunity if you're an entrepreneur or you're just wanting to learn about blockchain. So it's going to be held April 26th through the 28th in Austin. And their booth number is 904. A lot of XDC's utility is going to spring from Corda. R3's Corda settler is going to be a vital piece for XDC, as XDC is the primary bridge between public and private blockchains on Corda. Now, some were stating it's a leading token of value. Really, any asset could be settled on Corda. There's a bunch of different assets. So you really, any asset at that time will be a leading token. But when it comes to the primary blockchain to connect private and public networks, XDC Network does in fact fit that category. And one of the primary things that destroys Ethereum is XDC smart contract capability with practically no fees and no energy consumption. Now we're going to hear from R3's Chief Technology Officer, Richard G. Brown, and he's going to reveal how next generation of Corda is looking ahead to unlock crucial bridging features with private EVM that enables a free flow between networks.
What we're focusing on is making sure Corda is, if you like, almost a polyglot, able to talk every language. It can interoperate with anything that is relevant to our customers. So we're focused right now on the short-term requirement for many of our customers, which is to coordinate transactions between Corda-based networks and EVM-based networks, so that if an asset on a Corda-based network needs to be swapped at the same time as an asset on an Ethereum-based network, we can do that reliably and securely.
If you're an XDC fan, you most likely already have heard this excellent news, and it's going to tie in with the next piece that I'm going to show you. Stasis deployed the largest Euro stablecoin EURS on XDC Network to boost Web3 payments. Right there, that pretty much proves that XDC is a major blockchain. But remember, it's about interoperability. These chains must be able to interoperate with other stablecoins and so on. That's why this is another important development. The Digital Pound Foundation, they posted that as a priority of this year, the G7 will consider how best to help developing countries introduce CBDC consistent with appropriate standards, including G7 public policy, principle for retail CBDC. So this is bullish for the whole crypto industry as a whole. We know that Ripple is part of the Digital Pound Foundation, but interoperability is key. The G7 nations are coming together, introducing how this is all going to interoperate. And one of the major blockchains that will be interoperable is the XDC network. If you watch some of my XDC videos, you know that I've spoken about Andrea Frosinini, who's a business development manager for the XDC network. He's also involved in a lot of different areas in blockchain. And he posts, this is pretty powerful. The UNCTAD calls for a bold international economic agenda to avert another lost decade. And here's some highlighted areas, some issues that the world is facing. Developing countries are facing a projected foregone income of $800 billion and battling unprecedented levels of debt distress. Here's the highlighted areas. So global growth is expected to be lower than earlier projected, signaling a potential economic downturn. That's not good. Developing countries face mounting debt and insufficient international support, risking another lost decade. The banking crisis, I'm sure everybody sees what's going out with the bank failures. Declining energy cost. Now that might sound good, which leads to lower inflation, but elevated food prices maintain a high cost of living in many developing countries. Growing global asymmetries threaten to developing countries' resilience, requiring stronger and multilateral action and an urgent focus on sovereign debt architecture. Now, how does XDC play a role in this? Well, when you're trying to reduce the global trade gap, that's a huge deal. Also, when you're trying to reach sustainability goals, that's another huge deal. And the XDC network provides all these. The low transaction costs, the low energy consumption are the solutions that we need. So he highlighted some big names here, which he has a lot of connections to. And he also put XDC's decentralized Oracle. You can see supply chain, there's Hyperledger, global trade, sustainable developments, all which XDC will have a vital role in helping these issues. I'm going to end the video with this awesome discussion. This is posted from Kathy Slider. Interested in artificial intelligence? Listen to the first episode of XDC Chats, where Quincy Jones, Andrea Frosinini, Oren Lilly, and Kathy Slider discuss how blockchain can have a major impact on this technology. This is a treat.
Well, go ahead, Quincy.
I was just gonna say one of the biggest things that I think that's gonna be like really beneficial, monitoring of a live market. Because like, like in sort of like in traditional economics, you might have like the Fed, the Treasury, and they have like all these different metrics of trying to measure like economic growth and economic activity and all this. But with the blockchain, we can essentially do that live, and we can essentially start getting insights and analysis on future activity live in such a way that you would have to take like a whole quarter to evaluate all of this data to be able to put out a quarterly release or something, or a quarterly analysis or whatever.
What's an example of that?
Of the
Like
quarterly analysis or the AI?
Yeah, the real-time piece of that. I'm trying to think of a scenario.
Well, real time.
So imagine this, right? Like the way I see it is, look at like the reporting that may need to be done for like an exchange or something, or the reporting that may need to be done for different trade finance organizations. All that reporting can be all that transparent reporting. Anything that would have otherwise had to have been public anyway can automatically be on the chain, and since it's on chain live. So let's say you had like exchange A, B, C, and D, and a bunch of different like market makers or a bunch of different like wealth management firms or private equity firms, and they need to do a certain amount of reporting, for transparency's sake. And then once you have that information, you can start making insights on the future of what that information may entail. Well, if you have instead of a exchange, you have a DEX or you have a marketplace, and then you have, different market makers already are going to participate on chain. So any sort of thing that you would have otherwise needed reporting info to be able to have insights to, you just see directly on chain. You can monitor all that economic activity live, where you'd have to wait for each individual entity to publish their whatever public reporting needs that they would have to publish. You would have to wait for it rather than just being able to see it on chain.
Well, the way you could do that is because the AI could literally constantly be scrubbing that information and that data, right, in real time. So that's what makes that possible versus waiting for them to report it. If you had some sort of API, and that's actually something that's come out. I don't know if it was OpenAI with their Chat GPT or if it was some other AI that I saw. Quincy, I thought I shared it with you.
Yeah, I think it's OpenAI.
Yeah, where they're coming out with an API that people can use for, I don't know if it was Chat GPT or some other AI, but other ways that, because basically I think there's some misconception a little bit, and that's why I was glad you were writing about AI and blockchain, because I think there's a little bit of misconception out there of like how the blockchain can be used with AI. Like I think blockchain could use AI more than AI could use blockchain, right? Like they're both really a tool. Like a blockchain is just a record keeping, transparent platform, basically, the AI is what would do most of the work. So like one of the things that we were talking about was, or with some other people, was some messaging and data. The ledger can keep a record of those, but AI is the one that would be able to scrub or go through that data in real time to make sure that messaging is.
And yet, blockchain has an essential role into this. Rubbish in, rubbish out. I mean, in terms of output. So, feed, you said it. It's transparent. It's and it says it all. Means that you get quality data recorded to be analyzed. So in some kind of way, it's pre-clean the data sets being analyzed by the AI. And I'm thinking of this. You got me started thinking of what we are brainstorming about, guys. Think about creating a flow of data to be analyzed. You talk about markets. You talk about prices to be analyzed. You talk about commodities. Can you figure out what this could mean? Quincy, and I'm asking you mainly, what this could mean in terms of solutions.
The first thing that comes to mind is market manipulation. Right now, that's probably like, I remember when the GameStop thing was a huge thing. People were really grilling into like Robinhood and these hedge funds and, potentially like front running and manipulating prices and shorting and all this. You can essentially have a live means of being able to see market manipulation in real time and be able to see what parties are doing what, or at least what addresses are doing what, because you're able to see all this information and insights in real time. And I think that brings a level of transparency in which, if you're able to get more fair markets, you're able to get better stable pricing, you're able to get more engagement from valid people that want to engage rather than people trying to like push different prices in different directions. You even see this in crypto right now. Whenever people do these pump and dumps, imagine being able to have an AI that's literally telling you, yeah, these three addresses are pumping it right now. You know what I mean? Like, you're able to see live. And the biggest reason why you can't normally do this now, maybe if you're like an amazing analyst and you're able to pull up all this data and you're able to analyze it, maybe over the course of a day, you could come up with the same insights an AI could in like 5 seconds.
It's like adding one more layer, not in security, but in transparency. Don't you think so? Transparency, way forward, you see, for the future, guarantee transparency over time, Quincy.
Well, that's what blockchain can provide, the transparency, and the AI can provide the security in a way.
Yeah, because traditionally this is kind of the cool thing about, in my opinion, with blockchain and AI. So let's say I was like a genius AI programmer and I create this amazing, insane AI. Now, at best, I can maybe train this AI on the public internet, but even then, most websites have like different bot scrapers that keep you from trying to try to trigger multiple pages. Like most websites have different means of trying to keep, the whole captures the bots thing. So it would make it very difficult to train an AI. Like, it's not that you couldn't. Maybe you can go to certain social media sites or certain read-only websites or whatever to be able to train it. But traditionally, you would need to have a huge, rich database of information, whether this be at Google, Microsoft, Facebook. You would essentially need some rich means. And I don't know if I said this in this article or if I spoke on this before, but AI is like a knife, and the amount of data it has is like the ability to sharpen it. And the more data you have, the more accurate, the more sharp, the more powerful and potent the AI is. But if you have an AI with no data, yeah, it could probably still cut through stuff, but it's nowhere near as effective or as precise as it could be. And now with blockchain, I don't need to have this huge access. I mean, I would have access due to these blockchains, but I don't need to have like my own giant databases of this rich information. Or I wouldn't need to go on the public internet to train it, because I'm able to basically read off the blockchain. And that's the thing. The beautiful thing about it is, like, people look at the blockchain as like this weird, like abstract thing that's like almost like the cloud, like it's just off into the distance. All you have to do is just set up a full node. And if you set up a full node that has the entire history of the blockchain, you right there have everything you need to run that AI.
That's amazing. Quincy, I was going to actually read that sentence from your article, so it was in there. Data to an AI is like a knife sharpener to a blade. The more data, the more accurate and precise the results are. Similar to the more you sharpen a knife, the easier it is to cut. So I appreciate that you brought that up. And I'm wondering, like, what is the time frame to get enough data onto the blockchain? And I say blockchain in the universal sense.
Well, I think it's hard to really get a time frame on this, but the more data that comes in, the better that it's going to function, right? And the more data that comes in, that pace will accelerate faster and faster. But Quincy can elaborate on this more for sure.
I think it's an exponential thing. So what you end up seeing, at least from my perspective, let's look at a single user, right? I think this is the coolest thing. So a single user can create multiple sets of records based off of the type of engagement they have. So let's say this user holds crypto, so they engage with a DEX, and maybe they engage with the DApp, and they engage with the DAO, and they engage with the whatever. And let's say on average, this user engages with like 10 different applications. Well, if you have 10 users, you're only going to get 100 executions of these applications. But if you have 100 users, you're going to get 1,000. If you have 1,000 users, you get 10. You said it's gonna scale up super fast based on the amount, and then it's going to scale up even further based off of the amount of features that they're able to use. So let's say they're using DEXs, oracles, and different apps, and then let's say they're using like cloud storage, StoreX. They're using another application that comes online. The more that there's to engage with, the more data that there is to read, because there's more interaction between these different participants on these networks. So maybe you go from interacting with 10 apps to interacting with 20, to interacting with 30, to interacting with 40, and then you scale that up per user. You'll go from 10 users making 100 executions to 100,000 users making 20 million executions.
I think a lot of these functions and executions that you talk about will be possible because of AI. Blockchain is simply a tool. It's only as good as the information and data, right, that is put onto the blockchain. It's simply a record-keeping distributed ledger, if you will. But AI with smart contracts is what's going to make a lot of this possible. The AI can provide the information and data that it needs in real time, pretty much, and the smart contract can perform these executions and transactions with the AI in a trustless environment.
Yeah, one way to look at it, or at least the way I look at it, is, so the entire blockchain is one giant ledger, or at least one giant database. But you could also look at each smart contract as being like a sub database. And that's the thing, because you're able to have everybody engage with a specific smart contract, whether it be a DEX or whether it be a DApp or whatever, or even just like a set of engagements. That smart contract is able to get that super rich element of data, obviously based off of the exponential amount of users interacting with it and the exponential amount of engagement that people may be having with it. That smart contract acts the same way that a traditional like Google database would have, but it acts significantly simpler. Well, one, because you don't have to essentially run all the infrastructure to be able to pull that information. You can literally just point at a single address and see all of the engagement from it.
As I was mentioning earlier, another good use case, and I was talking to some people in the traditional finance space, and even with our newest episode of XDC The Stream, the guest that we had on there was talking about data scrubbing and data silos, and how even for money laundering and stuff, the way that they'll try to get around it is when they do payments, they'll put these little characters inside of payments, right? And your larger institutions and stuff like that have resources to have these great AML systems and stuff like that, but these smaller and medium-sized, financial institutions may not have the resources to have as good of AML, services.
Touching on a great point, Lance.
So AI can scrub this data, right, and make sure that these payment messages have the right information in them, right, for money laundering. Not only that, but when they're trying to communicate with each other, financial messaging, standards is the way that we've all kind of thought that could help this, right? But trying to get all these standards created and then trying to get all this data pulled from all these silos to communicate with each other would take an insane amount of work. And this is something that AI can help with.
This you touched on a very critical point, Lance. Enabling, empowering. You said smaller financial institutions, smaller banks, smaller actors in the space, interacting with standards and technologies, letting them interact the way that we just described. It would mean empowering all these smaller financial institutions. We don't have to lose sight of this. Should be total priority, because as you said, large banks, large financial institutions, they have all the means to create their own solutions, while the smaller ones, they don't. So it's like enhancing them, helping them to step into the larger picture. That's exactly what we should be doing.
Yeah, and I think we're still, AI is the new hot thing right now, right? So I think that people are still trying out new things. I've been following on LinkedIn pretty heavy. Chainlink been doing some interesting stuff with AI and Chainlink Labs and some other chains, and just experimenting with different ways that AI can be used. So I think there's still a lot to be figured out, obviously, and people are exploring those opportunities. But be interested to see, where AI goes. Look how far it's come in just this past year, right? Oh, wow. I can't wait to see how far it comes in the next 3, 4, or 5 years even.
And I have one other, not a burning question, but I've wondered about this just in the last month since we've been talking about it. The need for APIs as it relates to blockchain projects. Will AI, the existence of AI and this data, ultimately negate the need for some of those?
I guess it depends on what. I guess if it's read only, maybe, but write only, I think there's still gonna be the blockchain APIs. The reason why I say read only is instead of reading off the blockchain, you may just read some insights that the AI read off the blockchain, and then that AI might have an API that you would otherwise get insight from rather than get direct data from. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and maybe the API gets it's from the AI. The API, has an AI set up.
Like I think a good example could be like, so right now if you were to call any whether it's Ethereum or XDC, any of the AIs or any of the APIs to interact with the network, you'll get just raw data back, or not even raw data, but just plain data back. Where I think an AI could automatically scrub, filter, and instead of getting 1 or 10 records back, you can get the 10 records as well as it being organized, formatted. You can have an AI be able to pull data from the blockchain and then format it for a host of different databases rather than you having to do that yourself with the raw data you pulled. You see what I mean?
Yeah, that makes sense.
I saw one of the use cases, and Quincy and I were talking about this too, where somebody wrote a smart contract that people could leverage an AI to create AI art, So let's just say you're creating, some cards, some action figure cards or battle cards or whatever, right, on the blockchain. you know, you could literally just call this smart contract or whatever to real quick just come up with some art, whatever, that you can use for your card, right? So people don't have to worry about creating images for NFTs or whatever that is. It's just literally a smart contract you could call on that'll create the art for you. I think there's still things to explore with AI, but yesterday I was helping my wife study. I mentioned that earlier, right? And I showed her Chat GPT for the first time, and I was showing her how it works. And she was like, it's just Google. That's all it is. Like, no, keep using it. Keep trying it. And she was messing around with it, right? Like putting some of the questions that she was working on, like for school, just to kind of see what information would come up. And she was like, this thing is so cool. She's like, it's a study buddy almost, you know? I was like, yeah. It's like you keep messing with it and keep playing with it. Like it'll get even better. You'll get even better information from it.
And learn how to use it. Remember how you had to learn how to Google?
Yep. Yeah, right. There was like certain words you had to type. You had to kind of become good at. Google's a lot better now than it used to be. But I remember when Google first came out, you had to really be tricky on how you would search things. You remember you'd have to put words in. I remember back in the day too, you had to put like certain characters on certain words or something like that, like an asterisk or something.
Absolutely.
Like that. Remember
you
that?
have to put tags on the words.
Yeah.
And now it's just a matter of typing down what you need for, and boof.
Yeah.
Immediately it serves you with what you need for.
What's up?
It's like a question, honestly. Thinking what we have now in the market in terms of artificial intelligence, call it like one machine learning. How long would it take to put something in place in terms of proof of concept, Quincy? And how ready is technology from outside to do so? Just brainstorming about what we discussed at the start.
I think it depends on what you would want to build, but
I was gonna say, because I'm actually a little bit familiar with AI from I remember when Chat GPT 2 was like big and GPT 3 came out. This was like a few years ago, not even that long ago. But I remember usually the first utility for AI that I've firsthand experienced was the whole big data thing. So if you had database A, B, C, D, data like here, data like here, data like here, usually like what people would do, like data scientists, presumably, which are basically just like fancy programmers that only focus on like consolidating data. But they would basically go, oh, well, is it possible that we can have an AI drive all of the insights that we would otherwise need to drive, create charts, dashboards, whatever, from all these different data sources without having like, you know, some data scientists behind there trying to do it themselves. That was like the number one thing I saw. There were other like AI tools out there that nowhere near as good as like ChatGPT. Most of these were just focusing on like abstract data. But I think that's like the number one thing that people are going to see AI used for, sort of in the same way that you see Google, but it'll almost be like invisible. Like AI, like we don't look at Google as like this super fancy, amazing algorithm that's able to pull all this info. We just look at it as Google. But I think that's going to happen in every domain all across the board, where any sort of information that we want to be able to get, it may be powered by AI in some capacity, and that AI may be able to consolidate information, check for inconsistencies, redundancies, do all of these different things that we would have otherwise done anyway. But we don't need like a whole team of like data scientists trying to pull all these data sources together and pull all these different, like sort of what you see ChatGPT being used for now. But imagine just it being on the back, like imagine it looked at as just another algorithm. Like imagine an AI running the like Twitter algorithm in terms of how you want to be able to interact with information. We probably wouldn't even call it an AI. We might even still call it an algorithm, even though it's entirely powered by AI to be able to feed us information in a way that, well, no person or no algorithm could do quite effectively, as well as being able to iterate on itself so quickly.
So you're talking about automating tasks with it.
Yeah. Automating any sort of repetitive task that requires consolidating data and retrieving some sort of analysis off of it. I think AI is going to completely just take over. Because it's so now that's not going to be the only purpose of AI, but we sort of see this with algorithms, the YouTube algorithm, the Twitter algorithm, the Google algorithm, but it's just organizing data in such a manner to make it more practical for the user to use. And I think you'll see this in it's so weird. It'll be insanely powerful, but at the same time invisible, just the same way that the algorithms that we interact with now are invisible.